Who really visited the baby Jesus first? If I asked you that question, you'd probably say the three wise men, right? It's what we see in nativity scenes, on Christmas cards, and in countless holiday movies. But what if I told you that popular image might not be the whole story? What if the first visitors weren't kings from the East, but a group of humble, everyday workers? Today, we're going to dive into the biblical accounts to uncover the surprising truth about the very first people to greet the newborn king. This story is more than just a piece of trivia. It reveals something profound about the message at the heart of the Christmas story itself. So, grab a cup of hot cocoa, get comfortable, and let's separate fact from tradition. To get to the bottom of this, we need to turn to the two Gospels that describe Jesus' birth, Matthew and Luke. It's fascinating because they actually tell two different visitor stories. It's like watching the same major event from two different camera angles. Matthew's Gospel tells the famous story of the Magi, or the wise men. Luke's Gospel, on the other hand, tells the story of some local shepherds. The key to figuring out who was first is to look at the timing and details in each account. Most people mash these two stories together in their minds, creating a big nativity scene with everyone shepherds, wise men, camels, sheep all, gathered around the manger at the same time. But the text suggests these were two separate events, possibly happening days or even years apart. Let's start with the account in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 2. This is where we meet our first group of visitors, the shepherds. Luke tells us that on the night Jesus was born, there were shepherds in the fields nearby, keeping watch over their flocks. Now, being a shepherd in those days wasn't exactly a glamorous job. They were often seen as outsiders, common laborers living a rough, nomadic life on the fringes of society. They were ritually unclean, according to some religious standards, meaning they couldn't just walk into the temple to worship. They were the ordinary, working-class folks of their day. Suddenly, an angel of the Lord appears to them, and the glory of the Lord shines all around. Understandably, they were terrified. Who wouldn't be? But the angel gives them incredible news, saying, "Do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all the people. Today in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is the Messiah, the Lord." The angel then gives them a specific sign to look for. They will find a baby wrapped in cloths and lying in a manger. A manger is just a feeding trough for animals, which tells us just how humble Jesus' birth was. Right after that, a massive choir of angels appears, praising God. It must have been the most incredible sound and light show in history. So what do the shepherds do? Luke tells us they said to one another, "Let's go to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, which the Lord has told us about." Notice their urgency. They didn't wait until their shift was over. They didn't form a committee to discuss it. They hurried off and found Mary and Joseph, and the baby, who was lying in the manger, exactly as the angel had described. The text says they went with haste. This detail is crucial. It happened right away, on the very night of Jesus' birth. After seeing the baby, they went out and spread the word about what they had been told and what they had seen. They were the first evangelists, the first people to share the good news. Now, let's switch over to the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 2. This is where we find the story of the Magi, often called the wise men, or the three kings. Matthew tells us that after Jesus was born in Bethlehem, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem. The first thing to notice is the phrase "after Jesus was born." This doesn't specify how long after. It could be days, weeks, or even longer. The Magi are a mysterious group. The term Magi originally referred to a priestly caste from Persia, known for their knowledge of astrology and dream interpretation. They weren't kings in the traditional sense, and the Bible never says there were three of them. That tradition comes from the three gifts they brought: gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Their journey started because they saw a special star in the sky. They interpreted this as a sign that the King of the Jews had been born, and they traveled a great distance to worship him. But notice where they go first. They don't go to Bethlehem. They go to Jerusalem, the capital city, and to the palace of the current King Herod. It makes sense, right? If you're looking for a newborn king, you'd start at the royal palace. They ask King Herod, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him." This question throws King Herod and all of Jerusalem into a panic. Herod was a notoriously paranoid and ruthless ruler, and the idea of a rival king was the worst possible news for him. He gathers the religious leaders and asks them where the Messiah was supposed to be born. They quote the prophet Micah, who foretold that the ruler would come from Bethlehem. So Herod secretly meets with the Magi, finds out when the star had appeared, and sends them to Bethlehem, telling them, "Go and search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me, so that I too may go and worship him." Of course, Herod had no intention of worshiping Jesus. He wanted to eliminate him. After leaving Herod, the star the Magi had been following reappears and leads them directly to the place where Jesus was. Now, here's another really important detail. Matthew's Gospel says the star stopped over the place where the child was. And when the Magi arrived, it says they went into the house and saw the child with his mother Mary. Notice the words, house and child. Luke's account uses the words manger and baby. The Greek word used for child in Matthew typically refers to a toddler, not a newborn infant. This, combined with the fact that they are now in a house, not a stable, strongly suggests that a significant amount of time has passed since Jesus' birth. Joseph would have likely found more permanent lodging for his family after the initial rush of the census was over. So, when you put all the pieces together, a clear timeline emerges. The shepherds visited Jesus on the very night he was born, while he was a newborn lying in a manger. The Magi, on the other hand, arrive much later. How much later? We get a clue from King Herod's horrific reaction. When the Magi don't return to him, they were warned in a dream to go home by another route. Herod becomes furious. He then orders the execution of all male children in and around Bethlehem who were 2 years old and under. He based this age limit on the information he got from the Magi about when the star first appeared. This suggests that Jesus could have been anywhere from a few months old to nearly 2 years old when the wise men finally found him. So, the definitive answer to our question, who visited Jesus first, is the shepherds. They were the first to hear the announcement, the first to see the newborn Savior, and the first to share the news. The wise men came much, much later. But why does this even matter? Is it just a fun bit of Christmas trivia? I think it goes much deeper than that. The order of these visits reveals something incredibly powerful about the message of Christmas. Think about who the shepherds were. They were the humble, the poor, the socially marginalized. They weren't powerful, wealthy, or educated. Yet, God chose to announce the birth of the Savior to them first. The very first birth announcement for the King of Kings was sent to the palace in Jerusalem, or to the high priest in the temple. It was delivered in a field to a group of lowly shepherds. This tells us that Jesus came for everyone, especially for the ordinary and the overlooked. His kingdom turns the world's values upside down. The first are last, and the last are first. Then, you have the Magi. They represent the other end of the spectrum. They were Gentiles, non-Jews from a faraway land. They were wealthy, educated, and influential enough to get an audience with King Herod. Their long journey shows that the message of Jesus isn't just for one group of people or one nation. It's for the entire world. From the very beginning, God was signaling that this Savior was for the Jew and the Gentile, the rich and the poor, the simple shepherd and the learned scholar. Everyone is invited. The shepherds represent the humble invitation to the people of Israel, and the Magi represent the global invitation to all nations. So, the next time you see a nativity scene with the shepherds and the wise men all crowded together, you can smile, knowing the real story is even richer and more meaningful. It's a story of two very different visits, at two different times, to two very different groups of people. And together, they paint a beautiful, complete picture of what Christmas is all about. That the good news of a Savior is for everyone, no matter who you are, where you're from, or what your status is in life. The first visitors were humble locals, and the later visitors were distinguished foreigners, and both knelt to worship the same King. That S, a message of hope and inclusion. That S just as relevant today as it was 2,000 years ago. Thanks so much for joining me to explore this fascinating detail of the Christmas story. If you enjoyed this, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into stories you thought you knew. Let me know in the comments what you thought. Did you know the shepherds were first? See you in the next video.